Well, hello there. How would you like to learn how to rewire your brain to see positive things, especially those positive things that draw you closer towards your goals and increase the speed of your progress and the chances of success? You see, it's a fact, and no one is actually refuting among clinical psychologists and psychiatrists that the brain is wired mostly for negative stuff. It's important to notice negative stuff because that's the stuff we need to stay away from for proper survival. And in that case, I'm talking about threats. So because our brain is wired to notice threats and move away from threats, we get those confused with lots of other negative things. There's lots of threats that we experience throughout the day. Some are life-threatening, few, and some are not such a big deal. But our nervous system doesn't really know the difference, and it has a hard time distinguishing between threatening and non-threatening threats. So since our brain is wired to notice that, it's harder for us to move away from that and to notice the opposite, pleasure or positive stuff. It's either negative threats or positive pleasure. Very few of us ever experience one or other of the ends of that spectrum, where it's as good as it can possibly get or it's as bad as it can possibly get. Now, a lot of us feel that way about certain things. That, oh, it can't get any better than this. This is amazing. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Or, oh, this sucks. I can't imagine anything worse than this. So most of us are somewhere in the middle here instead of at the ends. And when we're in the middle, we can imagine things worse or better, and it helps put us in perspective. So when we're here, whether it's the middle or over on this side or over on this side, we're where we are. It is what it is. And so one of the easiest techniques I've ever learned was from Dr. Paul Jenkins, who wrote Pathological Positivity. And he had a lot of really good points and tips and tricks in his book. And one of those was, when you're here, it is what it is. Doesn't matter where you are, you're there. And so it might feel like it's the worst it could possibly be. And it might feel like you're over here, but you're really here. So to gauge where you really are, you ask yourself, could this be worse? And if you're in a really crummy state, sometimes you'll answer, no, it can't possibly be worse. This is horrible. But ask yourself the same question again. Could it be worse? Is that really true? And you'll probably be able to think of something worse. If you live in America like I do, it would be easy to think of something worse because we're spoiled here. We're hashtag friggin' spoiled. So when you answer that question, yeah, it could get worse. Then you have just moved yourself away from that side. And when you move away from that side, you're building momentum, and then it makes it easier to move to this side. So then you start thinking, well, obviously it could be better, so let me think about how it could be better. And now you're actually able to think about how it could be better, and then you can turn your head in that direction and think more about it. Because if you're focused on how bad things are, then your head's turned that way. And your body and your direction is going to follow the direction you're facing. When you get perspective about what it is, that it's not as bad as you think, then you're actually probably at good. Because if you can see how things could be worse and think about that just temporarily to get you to good, the reality is that is a good spot. And then once you're at a good spot, instead of that same spot being sucky, getting to better or getting to your results from good is a lot easier than getting all the way over there from sucky. The next step is gratitude. I know it sounds corny. You probably hear people talking about it all the time nowadays, but it's not just a fad. There's research that proves gratitude really changes your brain drastically. So now that you're facing this way and you're moving in that direction, think about 14 things that are good about your situation, that you're thankful for. Those could be closely related to your situation or distantly related to your situation. And then tomorrow, 14 new things. And the day after that, another 14 new things. Do that for 7 days. It's 98 things. And then after a week, you've thought of 98 things. And guess what? Because your head was facing that way, you're looking in the direction of positivity, and momentum had already been built, you're over here now. And now you're going to change your own situation. And the more you do this exercise, the more your brain gets wired for it. And then you create your own situation, better situation improvements, and you manifest things because of your unconscious thoughts and conscious thoughts and actions to make what you want happen. So of course this applies to most stuff in life, but it can especially apply to fitness. And let me tell you how. Since the brain is wired for negativity and threats, it's easy to think, all this time I'm spending working out. Well, not at the xgym, but for most people, they say that. Or they complain, this is so unpleasant, working out thing here. But mostly, they complain that they're not getting the results they wanted because they had these grandiose ideas of really fast results, being in shape by next month. And of course, we all know that never happens. We dream it and we fantasize about it, but that's the other problem, because the brain doesn't know the difference between reality and fantasy, and so it adopts that fantasy as reality, and then we get disappointed because our expectations are too high. That's another video. But for this video, the key is going to be concentrating on what is happening, on what we do like about our current fitness program. For instance, the little stuff is what you'll notice first. Like, it's easier to carry heavy stuff, even the groceries, in from the car. Or going up the stairs at home or work. It's easier. Energy levels are up higher than they used to be. Your general level of stress is reduced. Or at the xgym, faster results, way less time. Or it's half the price of traditional training, so you're saving money. Or you're not getting hurt like you did when you were doing traditional training. There's lots of things to be thankful for, grateful for, and to focus on that are positive. Then your brain's going to be opened up to notice other stuff, because it really is a snowball effect. Because when your head and attention is pointed in that direction, you see more of it. So that's the first step, is noticing it. Then the next step happens automatically, is you appreciate it. And then it's easy to believe that more of that is going to get you more of what you want. And then results come even faster, and you get even happier, and you get more positive, and it gets easier and easier because your brain is literally being rewired to think that way, and then to get more of what you want and manifest that stuff. It makes me think of a story of a client who came to me and said, yeah, you know, really weird because I do kind of feel like I'm getting a lot stronger actually, and I look firmer, but I can't do push-ups as good as I used to. And I said, well, I've got an easy explanation for that. It's because the push-ups you're doing now are good form, because we've taught you good form. And the push-ups you used to be doing are traditional training form. Real quick, top half of the range, ballistic, momentum, stretch reflex, all that kind of stuff going on, helping you out that shouldn't be helping you out. It's not about reps, it's about fatigue. Now you know how to do proper reps, which is going to make you do less. And now you know how to get to fatigue and work towards that as quick as possible. And so of course you're going to be doing less than you used to be doing. The quality is completely changed. And then all of a sudden she could appreciate that, and then she could appreciate more the other results because her head had turned that direction. Rewiring your brain, no matter how much of a shortcut the brain training technique is, and there's a lot of them, it's still work. So people that don't appreciate rewiring their brain don't want to do the work. People who do appreciate the fact that they can rewire their brain and the benefits of rewiring their brain are willing to do the work. The reason that it's work is because pathways that have already been ingrained are easier to use. To make a new pathway, however, you gotta hack it with the machete. So initially, it's a lot of work because the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that uses the most energy up front here, is doing most of that work. The rest of the brain, subconscious part of the brain, that likes routines and habits that are already established, doesn't want to do work. That part of the brain is lazy and loyal. Lazy because it doesn't want to do work, and loyal to the pathways that are already established. And those established pathways are nice beaten down paths. So even out in the wild, animals prefer to run around on paths that other animals have already beaten down. But the subconscious brain, which is most of our brain, and by the way, the part of the brain that's actually in charge, prefers to use those beaten down paths because it's lazy and loyal. But we have a very high functioning prefrontal cortex, the highest functioning of any animal. And with that prefrontal cortex, even though it takes energy, we can hack our way through and make new nerve pathways with that machete. Then we come back through it, all we need is a weed eater. We come back through it again, maybe a little bit of weed killer. Keep going through that pathway, it gets easier every time until it's a beaten down pathway that gets relegated off to the subconscious, and now the subconscious wants to use that because it's easy and it's lazy, and now it's loyal to that pathway. So it's totally worth it, even though it feels like work in the beginning. And it is, but it's totally worth it, especially once you understand it. If I'm looking this direction with a negative mindset and negative expectations, I might say something like, fitness has never worked for me in the past. I doubt this is going to work, this new program here. And then I'm going to create that reality because I'm going to sabotage myself unconsciously to make sure I'm right. If, however, my face is pointing this direction and I'm looking towards the positive side, noticing, appreciating, and believing the cool stuff and results that are happening, then my mind is open to that possibility. I can look that direction and I'm more likely to go that direction and make that happen. If you've ever gone to a motivational seminar and got all pumped up but didn't receive any tools, that feeling doesn't last very long and you go back to normal pretty quick. But if you find out something new like this about rewiring the brain and then get a tool to go along with it like gratitude, there you go. You can make differences, you can make changes. And every time you do that 1 week gratitude exercise, that's enough time to rewire lots of new pathways and beat them down. So then they get back in your subconscious, you make new habits, and your subconscious is helping you because remember, that's the boss of you, and that's usually gonna win because the PFC takes too much energy to maintain activity there. And once the boss of you becomes lazy and loyal to the pathways that the PFC establishes, that's your new pattern. And that's what rewiring is all about.